I'm calling to order the Common Council of the City of Gladstone, August 11, 2015. It is now 6:34 p.m. Jolene, can you do the roll call, please?
Councilor Stickman?
Here.
Councilor Mercero?
Here.
Councilor Johnson?
Here.
Councilor McMahon?
Here.
Councilor Reisner?
Here.
Mayor Jacobellis?
Here. If you'll join me, please, for the salute of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We have a little bit of a lineup change. We are going to swap agenda items. We originally had the appointment to City Council and the swearing-in ceremony scheduled early on. We're going to move that to the bottom of the agenda. We are now going to move and have any agenda additions or corrections. I just made one correction or a move. Yes, sir?
I have nothing.
Anybody else?
Did you want to have the number 11, or did that?
We do have an I have an additional number 11 as a result of executive session.
Okay, very good. So we have that addition. We've got the correction of moving the appointments for the open city council position, moving to the end of the agenda item. And now we will move and do a West presentation. Will be the first on our docket.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me okay? I have a real soft voice. Is that okay? All right. My name is Greg Geist. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I'm used to saying commission, for entertaining us here tonight. We've got a presentation, and I'm thankful to say that it has nothing to do with governance tonight. We want to just go over, actually I thought there would be a new counselor sitting, so kind of an overview of what we do. Some of you have seen that in your tours of our facility. Talk to you a little bit about some questions that we've heard from various members of this committee and this council and other folks, and then talk to you about some of the projects and priorities that we're working on at West. So, can we go to the next slide? Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I'd like to orient you real quick to the facility. All right. So I'm going to be mentioning what we call the MBR, the membrane bioreactor plant. Some of you are already very familiar with that, as well as what we call our CAS side, or conventional activated side, which is the original wastewater treatment plant. And I'll just step over here real quick and point those out. Sure. Actually, Doug Waugh, our finance director at West, is going to point those out for us.
Especially been trained for this. So. The MBR, facilities with the green roofs. And the conventional stuff is all this other remaining area over here. The digesters are over here. Clarifiers are over here. Biosolids facility is right there.
I think that's about it. All right, we'll go to the next slide. So, what we'd like to talk about, just give you an overview of how the districts are kind of physically connected, operationally, how they work. Some of the questions that we've heard from you folks, and then some of the issues that we've got on our plates that we want to talk to you about. So go ahead. So overview, Tri-City facility, we treat 3 billion gallons of wastewater per year at that facility from the cities of Gladstone, West Linn, Oregon City. We serve about 70,000 customers. I'll get more into the population side of it in a moment. We have 107 employees at West. About 26 of those are dedicated to the Tri-City Service District. The rest are allocated in our budget to our other 2 service districts. Our primary mission is regulatory compliance. We have a Clean Water Act permit that has very strict regulatory limits on what we can discharge to the river. Our outfall is at Clackamas Park into the Willamette River, and that is our primary mission. I will say that as an industry, we're moving towards what they call a wastewater resource reclamation facility. We take dirty water and we release we recover clean water, put that back into the stream for our downstream uses. We recover energy in our biosolids, or in our digesters that we use for heating of the digesters and operations within the plant, as well as creating energy that we push against the electrical grid. And we create biosolids, which are a solid product that's beneficially reused out in the Eastern Oregon wheat fields. So that's kind of the trend in our industry. You can see on the left, on the lower picture there, that's kind of the color of raw sewage. I think that was probably a pretty good day, because it often looks a lot worse than that. The effluent from our Tri-City facility, the CAS side, the conventional side, the original plant, is pictured next to that. And then the effluent from the MBR, the membrane bioreactor, is that perfectly crystal clear cylinder next to that. We charge $20 a month. We're a wholesale service provider to the 3 cities. We charge $20 a month per household to provide that service, and our budget this year for operations and maintenance is about $7.7 million. We are very proud of what we do, and we have lots of good employees, talented, hardworking experts. Go ahead. Okay, this picture, we can orient you to both of the districts. The original Clackamas County Service District is up above in orange there. That was the county's original service district back in the late 1960s. It came into being. The Kellogg Creek Wastewater Pollution Control Plant there on the waterfront of Milwaukee serves that area, or at least originally served all of that area. You'll see Milwaukee, this outline of the city of Milwaukee there in gray. They are a wholesale customer to CCSD number 1, the same way that Gladstone is a wholesale customer to Tri-City. So as far as how that was then, well, actually I'll talk about Tri-City. So you're probably pretty familiar with Tri-City. We got the 3 cities. We have the treatment plant there in Gladstone. And can you go ahead and hit forward on this? So in 1999, well, in the mid-90s, I understand, the Kellogg Wastewater Treatment Plant was having compliance issues with their NPDES permit, and were essentially becoming overloaded. So a pipeline was put in from the Clackamas industrial area. We call that Intertie 1. And CCSD number 1 rented capacity at the Tri-City plant for many years. And that's the waste came down to there. So in 2011, you can click one more. The red line shows what we call Intertie 2. So this is a connection from what we call the Intertie 2 pump station, which is located near the Lowe's off of 205, McFarland Bark area. And it's a pipeline that runs through Gladstone, across the 82nd Avenue Bridge, and to the treatment plant. That's a 20-inch pipeline. Brings anywhere from 1 to 10 million gallons per day from CCSD number 1. When that pipeline was put in, you can hit one more button. You'll see the blue line next to it. That just delineates that when the original plan was we would put Intertie 2, future growth that happened east of 205 in the CCSD number 1 would come down to the Tri-City treatment plant. Because of the difficulty of permitting an underground pipeline and constructing an underground pipeline, when it comes to environmentally sensitive areas or major intersections, a second 30-inch pipeline was placed in the ground in portions of that corridor. So that's kind of how the districts are plumbed today. The other thing I wanted to mention, both of those pipelines come across the 82nd Avenue Bridge that I believe we bought from Gladstone for $1 some number of years ago. One of the projects that we're working on now is figuring out how that Intertie 3 would get across the river. The easiest from an engineering standpoint is to lay it on the deck. But my understanding is there's been conversations about that. I see Steve shaking his head. That's probably not going to be the most neighbor-friendly or aesthetic thing to do. So we hired an engineering firm to give us options, everything from boring under the river to hanging it underneath the bridge, and price ranges. So if and when we come to that decision point, we can say, okay, here's our range of options. We can go with the bare bones, but there may be good reasons to go with a little bit more expensive option to preserve the bridge. We rehabilitated the Oregon City side of the base of that bridge, and we've got a project in the pipeline now to do the same on Gladstone side. So, go ahead. This is an outline. You may recognize this, the city of Gladstone. And I just learned this recently. I thought this was interesting. The area in yellow is what drains through the Gladstone pump station. Can you point that out? The blue square just above the lake. No, that's the cloud.
Is that it?
No.
Which one is it? Oh, it's this one right down there.
Yeah.
It's right across from it.
Yeah, and then, of course, probably most people in this room already know, but a portion of Gladstone drains to the Oak Lodge Sanitary District, and you guys have agreements in place for them to treat that waste. What I didn't know, the red area, right? What I didn't know, there's that purple area up in the northern part of the city that actually drains to the Kellogg Creek wastewater treatment plant through pipes. And the green area actually drains to the northeast and goes through that Clackamas pump station, which is in the upper right-hand corner, and then back down to the Tri-City plant along with all that flow from CCSD number 1. So, I mean, it just kind of shows you how topography governs where the pipes go, what agreements we have in place, things like that. All right. Next. So the other observation, question that I've heard from this group and others is, well, Gladstone's not growing. Why are we having a conversation about growth? And I just wanted to put this up there. Overall, we've experienced about a doubling in population in the service district. You can see the blue area, which is Gladstone, very flat. You're absolutely correct. Gladstone, if you go to the next slide, in absolute terms, Gladstone's only grown a couple thousand in population since 1980. So I guess the take home from that, or what I want to convey, is we understand that. We're going to talk about the digesters. I'll talk about the digesters next, and I just wanted to acknowledge that we do understand that sensitivity. Right now, I think we need to get to a point where we agree that we do need digester capacity. Whether we need digester capacity, we need to make a decision about whether that's going to be an investment by both districts or one district, and then I think we talk about a fair and equitable distribution of who pays the cost. So just want to let you know I'm open to that conversation. So next we will talk about the digesters. As Doug pointed out earlier in the yellow dot there, they look like pretty small tanks. They're actually as deep as they are high. They're over 1 million gallons apiece, installed in 1986. And I guess one thing, to me it's kind of intuitive that 30 years down the road we would be having capacity issues because you don't generally design plants to last much more than that, or overbuild them for much more than that. And we've doubled in population across the district. So why don't we have liquids capacity issues? Typically you'd think that you've got 30 years of growth there and we're not talking about that yet. And the reason is low fixture toilets. When these facilities were designed, there was an assumption about how much water came with how much waste. And that, as we all know, has gone down significantly with low flow fixtures, low flow toilets. But what doesn't go down is the amount of solids. That goes directly proportionate with population. And so we're just getting more concentrated waste. And thankfully, it saves us on the liquid side. It's been a real blessing. But we still have the issue on the solids handling side, which is the digesters. So some of you have seen this before. I'm trying to think of how to present this. You notice we had 2 tanks, 2 digesters. Those of you that have been to our facility, you understand that we run 24/7. It never stops. We're mission critical. We are critical to protect public health and the environment. We have to make our permit. We have redundancy and we have backup because we need to take treatment trains and equipment offline to do maintenance, to do repairs, to do cleaning, and that's how the digesters were designed. That was the assumption going into that. So the diagram on the left there shows them operating in series. That's essentially one does the work, the other one is there for storage and backup. I'm going to orient you to the term EDU. This is I guess a term of art or a currency that we use in the wastewater business. It stands for equivalent dwelling unit, and it's essentially equivalent to 2.5 people. There's also a amount of water that's associated with an EDU, anywhere from 150 maybe to 200 gallons. So the design capacity for the plant as it was built was 28,000 EDUs for those digesters. We're currently treating 38,000 EDUs. We're way overloaded. When we made an operational shift, so before my time, a decision was made, okay, well, to stall or to push off that capital investment for as long as possible, we're going to run these things in parallel. That means instead of having one tank do all the work, you load up both tanks. I think it's pretty intuitive to know that, well, then you lose your redundancy and you lose your backup. So that's how we're running now. At the time, it was envisioned that given the growth that they were seeing during the kind of recession times, that it would take till 2023 to exhaust that capacity. Well, what we saw in the last couple years is growth of 1,000 EDUs across both districts per year. So we've got 38,000 that we're treating essentially now. Our capacity, pretty hard capacity, is 42,000. That's, if we continue on this boom, that's 4 years. This is what raised the red flag for me when I saw this, and why we started this conversation about the digesters. Feel free to interrupt any time, by the way. Go ahead, next one. So then, who's using this capacity? Recall the design capacity is 28,000 EDUs. When we calculate just what the Tri-City Service District is contributing to that, it's essentially 28,000 EDUs, 27,500 EDUs. The rule of thumb in our industry, it's sort of like a gas gauge in a car. The light goes on at 80% of capacity. You need to start looking to add capacity, just like you might need to start looking for a gas station. We are at 100% capacities. From a operational standpoint, from a management standpoint, I firmly believe that we need to be looking at additional capacity just by virtue of the Tri-City. It's an opportunity to, frankly, partner. CCSD number 1 adds an additional 10,000 EDUs to that. That's what gets us up to that 38,000 overloaded capacity on the digesters. Okay? Next. Thanks. I guess, yeah, you can click through this. It's just going to circle. Another one. Yeah. One more. Okay, so flow monitoring. I know there was a discussion here. I was in the audience and they talked about flow monitoring. I've been working, or having our engineer work with Steve and with Councilor Johnson. I have
a final report from Mr. Sissel, and I'll send that on to you.
Great. Okay. And I think we kind of missed each other a little bit on this. I think what I probably should have asked more questions about what information Gladstone was interested in, which I believe was how have those flows changed over time from each of the cities. I think it's fair to say that Gladstone's flat, and the population's flat. It's going to be flat, unless there's been massive changes in the condition of pipes or something like that. But we do flow monitoring not to apportion flows to the cities, because it doesn't matter to us. We treat what comes to us, and we don't bill that way. We don't really think that way. We are looking at planning for asset replacement and capacity issues within our collection system. So where I believe that it's a best practice. There's a lot of folks that aren't as proactive with their in-pipe monitoring as we are. We think it's important to keep a handle on that so that we know what's happening in our system. We've got, well, I won't go into the detail. You can see we've got a lot of flow monitors throughout our system, both in the CCSD number 1, which is the northern, or the upper half of that, as well as the Tri-City Service District. All right. So some of the things that we're talking about or working on, obviously the solids handling is a big conversation that we're having in various venues right now. I won't talk more about that. The other thing I think that's pretty exciting for us and for Gladstone and for Oregon City is this peracetic acid pilot project. So the final step in our treatment process is disinfection. We screen, we filter, we scrape, we settle, we use bugs to clean the water, and then there's some of those bugs are left. And we need to kill them before we send the water out to the river. We need to meet standards for E. coli. We were concerned about bacteria, other bugs, basically, in the water. So we zapped them with liquid chlorine, since the plant was designed for liquid chlorine, big ton cylinders of liquid chlorine, or gaseous chlorine, I should say. And that's industry standard. City of Portland had rail cars out in front of their place with this stuff. We're moving away from that, thankfully. It's dangerous for our people. It takes a lot of training. It takes the regulations from OSHA and EPA are getting more and more stringent as far as the type of response and emergency plans that you have to have, and it's just not best practice. So we're moving to this peracetic acid, which is EPA green chemical. It's basically a mixture of hydrogen peroxide and vinegar. It's very effective. We're very excited about it. We think it can be cost effective. It's not going to be as cheap as chlorine, but it's a heck of a lot less dangerous. So we're working with finalizing our pilot study, getting the data together. We're approaching DEQ to get it integrated into our permit. We would be the first one in the state to use this stuff. It's being used across the country and in Europe, but we're excited about that. The other thing that's a big priority of mine as the new director of WES is to have a comprehensive master plan. We have not updated our collection system master plan since 1998. I understand you guys are either working on that for your collection system or plan to. That's something that we're going to be doing this year as well, so I'd love to partner or work with you, share information, collaborate, whatever on that. We have a pretty good understanding of what we need at that facility for growth. We had an engineer do the calculations, come up with a master plan saying we need to build X, Y, and Z in these years in order to accommodate what we believe the growth is going to be. Kind of the missing link there is asset replacement. We've got a 35-year-old wastewater treatment plant that we take really good care of, but it's 35-year-old equipment, and we need to have a comprehensive look at, when we project 20 years out into the future, what our needs are going to be for capital dollars, what our rate impacts are going to be. We need to take all that stuff into account, roll it up, and lay it out in a way that we can justify to our ratepayers and to our community. So that's something that we're going to be working on over the next year or two. It's actually a pretty big job. We have tens and tens of millions of dollars worth of equipment there to categorize, assess, and project. I guess next one. So future issues. I actually brought a copy. There's the next capacity-related issue that we're going to be facing. We're pretty darn sure is going to be peak wet weather capacity. That's the stuff that comes in during storm events, and it's basically stuff that leaks into the pipes, whether it's getting in from infiltration through groundwater or inflow from storm drains and cross connections and things like that. We have a facility. I was kind of shocked when I first came to Tri-City that the base flow may be a couple 4 MGD. We can see storm peaks nearing 60, and that's pretty big swing there. So in the future, and once we're all happy and we've got our solids and we're working together, we're going to be needing to talk about how to handle that next increment of capacity. I brought a handout. There's a picture of it right there. It's called Working with Satellite Communities on Regional Wet Weather Issues. It was put out by a National Association of Clean Water Agencies, and it's basically a case studies and a kind of a white paper type evaluation of how other communities across the country are handling this very same thing, where they've got a wholesale, maybe a wholesale treatment provider and these satellite communities that are contributing to it. I've worked at DEQ for 15 years, and I've seen everything from investing in I&I reduction, fixing the pipes, to adding capacity. And in some cases, it makes sense to do one or either one or a combination of both. And that's something I think that we need to put our heads together on in the future and figure out a way to do what's best for our ratepayer when it comes to that. And again, the other book there is managing, or picture is managing public infrastructure assets. That's alluding to this need for our asset management and replacement program, which is another big priority for me.
Question
Yes.
in regards to, like, basic is for when it really rains, might get up to 50 or 60.
Yeah.
So from what you were saying earlier, you really don't know where that's coming from then, do you? If it's District 1, us, Oregon City, or West Linn?
We have a pretty good idea. I couldn't give you we call it a peaking factor, maybe 4 to 1, it may be 10 to 1, and we have that for all of our flow monitoring locations. We know exactly what's coming in from CCSD number 1 because we have a pipe and we have a flow monitor right there. So we know exactly what's coming in from CCSD number 1. What's coming in from other portions of the collection system, we have a good handle on that too. Okay, so then of the 4, who's contributing more to the peak rainy, when we have a big rain runoff? I'm not familiar with the exact peaking factors. I could get you to that tomorrow or the next day, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know that any one is better or worse than the others, but as far as the cities go.
Question. What outside of
We don't.
the footprint size and whatnot, what are the technical reasons that are stopping the county from expanding the Kellogg Creek wastewater treatment plant?
My understanding is it's the footprint size. Yeah, I mean, we could expand on that footprint if we went to a different treatment technology. The membrane bioreactor, like what we built at the Tri-City, is very efficient from a space standpoint. Yeah.
So I know that in the tour you showed us the vaults and whatnot and the catacombs underneath of Tri-City. That doesn't exist at Kellogg Creek.
That's correct.
Would it be beneficial? Would it be helpful to create that kind of infrastructure? And would that help solve some of those space problems at Kellogg Creek?
Yes, and that's a project that we've talked about. I could find out the exact status of that, but basically they wouldn't be nearly as big as what we have at Tri-City, but putting galleries in it as we replace pipe, so we're placing it in those galleries so that we have better access to it. And the other thing I would say about I think Kellogg has some real, we've got Highway 99, we've got the river, we've got the park, and then not far off of our southern property line is housing, so it's very constrained.
Okay.
Any questions?
If CCSD1 in fact built their own treatment plant, how would that affect us overall?
I hadn't really thought through that. I could think about what the implications would be. I mean, we did put some numbers together, go it alone strategy for the solids handling. So if Tri-City built their own, and if CCSD number 1 built their own at Kellogg, but yeah, I'd have to think about that.
I can offer something.
Sure.
We looked at building a treatment plant for Service District number 1 back 5, 6, 7 years ago when Phase 1 was being considered, and it was about a $500 million effort to do that, plus all the replumbing. So it was just cost prohibitively crazy for them to really consider doing that. The rates would have been 4 and 5 times what they are. So it was an economic issue as much as anything.
Good.
Good.
Well, when you appoint a new counselor, I'd sort of like to have him over for a tour.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it. Okay, I saw a few latecomers come in, so I will mention this. If you want to address the council, there's some 5x7 or 5x8 yellow cards or tannish cards back there. You can fill them out, and you're going to have 2 opportunities.
No, go ahead.
2 opportunities. You can talk in the beginning, and then we've got another little session at the end. So, right now, we are going to take business from the audience. Do we have any?
Yes, we do. Could I have Mr. Bob Everett come up?
Good evening. I'm Bob Everett, business owner, and I live here in Gladstone, 18235 Stonewood Drive. And I appreciate the presentation, because when Steve talks now, I'll know what he's talking about a little bit more, so that's for sure. And I'll try to keep it simple. But I'm really here just representing Rotary and also myself, Gladstone Oak Grove Rotary and myself. And I just want to thank the city. I know Rotary wants to thank the city, and I do personally, for everything they did for us for the festival this last weekend, weekend ago and a half. You went above and beyond anything that I could have imagined. Public Works was more than helpful, helping us out, showing me what to do at the park, explaining things. The police department, the fire department, they were all exceedingly helpful, and also the council was. And I appreciate you coming down there, having a booth. And I tried to give you as good a spot as I could, and I also appreciate both you, Mr. Mayor, and Kim, for being in the dunk tank. You were great sports, that's for sure. So, but thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to next year, and it'll be even better, bigger and better. So, anyway, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Could I have Tammy Stemple come up, please?
comments, I'd keep it short and bullet pointed.
Every time you come up, we got homework.
It's not homework, I did all the work for you guys. This is just all the information.
Thank you.
All right. Tammy Stemple, 6960 Winfield Court. I'm just here to give you guys an update on the county committees that I'm on. First is the Clackamas Transportation Advisory Committee, also called CTAC. The Regional Transportation Plan is the big focus right now. They're wrapping up the preliminary outreach, and they're going to be pulling a draft document together. There's an attachment there. The Transportation Model-Based Network is being looked at by the individual municipalities right now, and I'm hoping that we're on top of that because the deadline is September 14th. TriMet Southeast Enhancement Plan is on the table. The new Max Orange line opens in September, and as part of that, TriMet's been reevaluating the Southeast connections. A couple of you have been to those meetings. The impacts to Gladstone include modified routes, more frequent service, and extended service options. The MTIP, which is the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program, and the Regional Flexible Funds allocation, its funding grant allocations for 2019-2021 is in the works, and they're talking about how to split that up. There's a tier step 1, which is for complete projects. There's a step 2 for active transportation and complete streets. They're wanting to possibly pull some of that money aside to focus on safe routes to school programs, which would be sidewalks and bike paths, which are pretty desperately needed. There's large focus on funding for bicycle and pedestrian enhancement projects. There's multiple sources that we could pull funds from for those, and I've attached a list of some of them. Second is the Clackamas Economic Development Commission, also called the EDC. Focus this year is on outreach and how the county can support local businesses and what their barriers are to growth. The commission was split up into 3 committees that focused on specific service sectors, and each committee went out and did some outreach to local businesses, and we're putting together a draft to present to the council, I believe, in the fall? November. The Clackamas Development Liaison Committee, DLC, we discuss creative plats and what we're seeing locally. Infill potential is really high, and so there's a lot of developers that are kind of thinking outside of the box, which isn't necessarily what we want to see in some instances, so we're looking at how to address those proactively. There's a Performance Clackamas update, and this is the new Clackamas County Performance Metrics Report. Each department is creating this document, and I would recommend that you guys look at it. I believe they're online. They're wonderful. It gives each agency, department its own kind of mission and vision, and it's wonderful. And then also they're implementing a new Quick Drop program, which is a quick process for permitting for projects that meet certain criteria. They're rolling it out first for large residential. That's going in the fall, and then if that works well, then they'll roll it out to others. And it includes some training and some other things that people need to know beforehand so that the process goes smoothly. And they're also working on electronic submissions and approvals. So that's it. All of the documents supporting that is behind it. So any questions?
Thank you, Tammy.
No?
Great work.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Great information.
Thanks.
Next is Mary Essentura.
Mary Achatur, 17528 Southeast Valley View Road, and I'm the Gladstone Public Library Foundation president. Good evening, and we would like to congratulate the Rotary Club of Gladstone for a successful community festival, and we would also like to thank them for including our annual book sale info in their Clackamas Review insert. Again, our book sale was a huge success. The funds of this sale enable us to provide all the extra projects and programs for the Gladstone Public Library that are not funded by taxpayer dollars. A very big thank you to the Gladstone School District and the John Wetton custodians, Scott and his crew, and most importantly, all of our hard-working volunteers. A special thank you to one volunteer that showed up unexpectedly and pitched it right in to move all those heavy boxes, Mayor Jacovellis. Also, Councilman McMahon, thank you for letting us use your fire truck for our participation in the parade. Without the community's support, this annual fundraising project for us could not be accomplished. Some stats, we had 45 volunteers who put in 509 volunteer hours in those 5 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Next is Brian Johnson. I can try.
I think that Brian Johnson, Gladstone, I think the big question with Wes is what ultimately is the best deal for the ratepayer? Not the city, because the city doesn't own the plant. So the big question here is if SD1 invests in that plant to build your digesters, and they pay 2/3 of $50 million, or do you want to pay 1/3 of $50 million? So you can either divide up like $18 million between you, Oregon City, and West Lynn, or you can divide up $50 million. Because you can tell SD1 to go pound sand, and you're going to have to come up with $50 million, or you'll get a state moratorium, and then the state's going to come in and do it for you. And
Brian, I can't find it.
as far as leaking pipes, you guys in Oregon City, you are the only city in the region that continuously puts raw sewer into the river. Portland's fixed theirs. You are the only guys. And the little map up there she had, but she can't find it.
Sorry.
I pay sewer in SD1. I pay sewer in Tri-Cities. I pay sewer in Oak Lodge, and I pay sewer in the city of Portland. I'm paying $7,600 to SD1, and I want your people that are getting a wholesale price that I'm subsidizing, all those people in the red zone, to pay SD1's rate, not Tri-Cities rate. They're going into SD1's plant. I don't want to be subsidizing them. I'm paying enough. So you can throw the county under the bus. They're the ultimate ones that are going to say, pay the right rate, because you've been getting a deal. No one's been, it was just a handshake deal, city. You're all in a thing, but you're not going into your own zone. You're going into SD1 with all those residents. Thanks.
That's all.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
We are moving down to the consent agenda. There's 4 items: approval of minutes for July 22nd work session, approval of minutes for July 28th regular council session, approval of temporary liquor license at Duke's Country Bar and Grill, and payment of July claims. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
All right, and a motion by Councilor Sickman to approve the consent agenda, second by Councilor McMahon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, consent agenda has been approved. Down to correspondence, we don't have any this month. Moving down to the regular agenda items. Item number 5, which is Resolution 1064, approval to open recruitment for a full-time fire chief.
Yes, sir. I'd like to call our fire chief up to the stand at this point. Stan? I think the agenda item's pretty straightforward, but Stan's here to answer any questions you might have about it. Thank you, Stan.
So it just looks to me like there's just 4 options, Stan, is basically outlined in the brief we got. So that's what I'm saying. Basically a full-blown outside agency doing the recruitment and the selection and...
Yeah, and basically I broke it down into 4. I probably overthought it. I could have given you 3. Either we do it fully in-house, which I do not suggest, we do it fully out-of-house, or we go to the option A that I threw forward there, which gives us the choice to start with the consultant and decide whether we want to move forward with him or bring it back in-house. If the council wants to go to option B, which would be just fully go outside, I have no qualms with that. I was just looking at expenditures.
Stan, when you're looking at option B, that's fully outside. and we've still got between $5,000 and $9,000 worth of staff time.
Yes.
And the other ones are all ranging between $5,000 and $12,000 worth of staff time.
Yes.
I'm not seeing much difference for us not doing any part of it.
The staff time that we're going to incorporate is going to be Mike, mine, Jeff's. The time that we're going to have to put in feeding information to this person, working with him, evaluating what he's doing, and moving forward, giving him decisions. It's kind of hard to put an actual number on it. That's why I have such a wide dollar spread. If we do it in-house, or by bringing in a consultant, you're bringing in the expertise. A lot of what we would have to research ourselves, or the advertising that we would have to do ourselves, goes out the window. He already brings that to him, or to us. That's why you see that little bit of difference.
Okay.
You mentioned that your selection sounded like was based a lot on costs. Okay. Why did you select A over D? In that A, the high is 36, and D, the high is 24. Okay.
D being the one where we do it all in-house, correct?
No, you're doing it. You're selecting a contract and solicit and contract an experienced private consultant to advise and assist in the development of defining the qualities required.
Yes.
Your high is, for that item, is 24. The mean of that is 20.5K. The mean for the consultant is 10K, and the mean for the staff work is 8.5K. And the same for A is 36K for the high, mean 28K for the high, excuse me, for the...
Okay. You're looking at different options all the way around, okay? Do you want to go into each one? And all
I want to know why you selected A over D.
Why did I select A over D? You can hire a consultant, you can hire a contractor, and everything's roses at the beginning. And you can go through the process. You need to get them from point A to point B. But if you want to go from B to C, you should have that option not to use that contractor. He may be able to give you enough education that you can say, we can go ahead and finish this ourselves. We're finding it's cheaper. Or we can say, hey, you're doing such a great job. That portion is so cheap, go ahead and take it yourself. Because when he gives us a scope of work, it's going to be an A scope and B scope. Take the A right off the bat. Generally, a contractor is going to put most of his value into that, and the rest of it's going to be a lower value. I don't know what I'm getting, and that's why I've chosen A. A gives us the option to move forward with them, instead of being stuck with one where we may not have the education, may not be able to do it ourselves in-house. Makes sense?
Which, if I may jump in there, that's why you'd see such a wide swing in the upside of that one, possibly from 24 to 36, because you got an option there. So D's 24,000 is the upside, and A's the upside of 36,000. But that may because you exercise your option. Is that what you're saying by that?
Most of my, like the city just hired one for the city manager, if I remember right, 17 to 20,000. That may be more correct than the numbers I've thrown out here, but I do a conservative estimate when I put these together because I don't want to come back again. So,
just for clarification, so A and B option are basically the same thing, except for A is split into two parts with the option to finish out what would be completed in B completely.
Yes.
And you're thinking $2,000 to $5,000 difference for that option.
I do.
Okay.
So B is an external recruiting firm along the same lines of what we're talking about for the city manager.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Well, we got a recommendation. You guys want to make a motion on the resolution, or, and then discuss it, or? I'll entertain one.
I would like to go with option B. I think based on some of the things that we've learned in talking about recruiting firms, it's going to come up here later. I think that they're fairly thorough in their criteria and in their searching, and they've all, in the ones we've looked at, they've all bragged about selecting fire chiefs and police chiefs and finance directors and everybody in between. So I prefer that option. Prefer option B.
And I'm with Councilor Johnson on that also.
I like option B as well, for just that reason.
Okay. Will somebody make a motion to change Resolution 1064?
I have a quick question for City Manager Schultz. You didn't sign off on this. Is that an oversight, or do you have a...
No, you'll see that
professional experience, did you have a preference?
No, sir. You'll see on several of the resolutions and staff reports, I didn't sign off on them just because I oversight. I'll do better next time, but for my money, I would like to refer to the professional that's standing in front of you, because he knows more about this than I do, by far.
Well, if you're looking for a motion, I'll move that we adopt Resolution 1064 as outlined in option B.
Point of order, you probably should make a motion to amend the Resolution 1064 to be option B, and then make a motion to adopt the resolution as amended.
I so move that we adopt
adopt the amended.
And I'll second that.
Okay.
So I've got a motion to amend Resolution 1064 to reflect it be option B. It was motioned by Councilor Reisner, seconded by Councilor Johnson. All in favor of making the amendment to Resolution 1064? Aye?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so we've made the amendment, so it now reads, Resolution 1064 will read, the staff is authorized to follow the process outlined in option B of the staff report to hire a full-time fire chief. So now I will entertain a motion for Resolution 1064 as amended.
I move that we adopt Resolution 1064 as adopted.
I second that.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilor Reisner, seconded by Councilor Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, and what happened to my thingy?
They took it away from you.
Hold on.
There we go.
Okay, Resolution 1064 has been approved or passed as amended. Okay, item number 7, which is item number 6, Resolution 1065, approval of statement of direction of 800 megahertz radio for public safety.
Once again, Fire Chief Monte is up here. Notice how we worked that together.
Can I ask a quick question, Chief? At one of the National Night Out places, I asked you when the next meeting was, and you said September 9th.
Yes.
This says September 2nd, which is correct?
It's 9th.
It is 9th?
It is a 9th, yes.
Okay, all right, very good.
I didn't write the one that says the 2nd.
Okay, good, 9th.
Interesting.
Okay, I think we've all had time to read both documents, the blue paper and the original, so I would just say, if you have any questions for Stan, you might as well just shoot.
One of the questions that, well, I've got several, but that came up back in February when this came before us was what other agencies are that are doing switching to the 800 digital in the area, and there really wasn't too many in the Portland area.
BOAC is,
So,
and that's the biggest agency in Multnomah County. So
you know,
they are in the process of switching.
You know what's kind of funny is I met with the commissioner that's in charge of BOAC yesterday and was asking him about it, and he didn't have a clue.
Well, I use the system, and we are going to digital. We are a little bit further ahead of where Clackamas County is, but it's in the same lines, 800 megahertz digital, brand new radios, brand new system.
Did you see the list of all the counties that have already or are making the switch? It might be a different
5.8
document.
in your
Oh, it's
amended.
5.8?
Yes.
So, okay. I did, but they're not, they're in the process. Nobody's really up and running it, is my understanding. Is that right, or?
They either, I don't know which have, but they are making the switch, or they already have.
Okay.
Is the way it was put out. And that, you know, Frontier, Gilliam, Sherman, Wheeler counties, Lane, Benton, Lynn, Trimet, Rogue Valley, Salem Fire Department, Deschutes County, ODOT, Washington State Patrol, Pierce County, Tacoma, King County, Seattle.
So how, right.
I mean,
yeah. Our current system's what, 15 years old?
Almost 20.
Almost 10?
20.
20?
Came in mid-90s, switched over, so yeah, we're almost at 20 years, I think.
Okay.
So what is the...
Well, I was going to say, what I was asking is, I got an email that the county, back in 2001, bought $9.7 million, or sold $9.7 million bond sale to finance the 800 radio system, which would give it like 15 years. So I'm thinking...
We started making the changeover back in the mid-90s.
Okay.
So where it actually came online, it may have been with that bond measure, but to my knowledge, we started in the 90s.
What I'm asking is if we're going to be, you know, the proposal is to go 15 years. So is the radio system going to last that long? I mean, the current one did. That's what I was asking.
With the contracts that we're looking at, yes. It's equipment and software should be updated every 2 years. And we're working into the contracts that they maintain it for that full time.
Okay.
We don't want to have them come down the line later and go, we're done, you got another 5 years of material, we're not going to support it.
Okay. So, thank you. Then also back in, there was 5 different options, starting at about 32 million, all the way up to the 53 million that we have now. That was,
all the way up
the C800 board committee, whatever, was looking at.
Yes.
And so, who from our city is on that board?
Myself, Pride.
Okay, so what input did you guys have, and what was your thoughts as to?
Present for all the discussions, working our way through it. We came down to back in January, February, we developed 4 different options, and with a sub-list of, what would you call it, additives. And at that point, we put in our survey, from our answering to our survey, what we thought would work best for the city of Gladstone.
Mm-hmm.
And we basically came down to 2 options, and this happened to be the one that we would have preferred.
Okay. What was the other one?
The other one would have included the radios as part of the purchase.
Okay. But that
would have been a sub-option.
But weren't the main options just for the operating system, whereas...
Yes.
So you were always wanting to go with all the additional towers that were... So how would they benefit us then?
Okay, there's 2 different things that happen. One, we do go out of town. We do go up to Estacada, we do go up to Mount Hood, we do go down to Mala on calls. So we utilize that system also. The other thing is, when they looked at the survey across the county-wise, if you were to take Estacada out of this, well, I'll leave the contractual agreement with C800 out, but if you take them out, you turn it into us and them. And you start having bond measures that start failing when you start doing that. So for what little it's going to cost additional to improve their service, they're still a part of us. We still have to work with them. I think it's to have them as part of our bond measure across county-wide. I think you'd be silly to cut somebody out by lowering their service. Because if you lower their service, would you go for it? If they came to Gladstone and said, we're going to improve this, we want you to pay something, but you're not going to have as good a service as you had, would you want to be part of that bond?
Well, I'm looking at it as that would be subsidizing because we're doing what, aren't we currently, if we just replaced what we had, without the expansion, which was what, the 32 million option A? That
I don't think it would quite replace it all.
Or
without the options in front of me, I couldn't tell you, sir.
Okay.
But again, with the contract, you want to go to the contractual obligations of C-800, everybody has to agree to go into it.
So,
or we don't go for the bond measure.
Okay.
But now I don't believe we're part of that. Is that correct?
We are part of that. We bought into it back in the mid-90s when we got rid of we stopped doing our own dispatching.
If I remember correctly, there were certain entities that were listed in the presentation that was given to us, and we are part of a small group. Actually, from my understanding, CCOM may not even have, I wish I had my documents in front of me, but there was, Washington County had a say in it, Lake Oswego had a say in it, and then there was a conglomeration that included CCOM, of which we was a small piece of. Is that the entity that you're talking about that has got to have full buy-in?
See, there's two different operations here. Okay, you've got C-800, which is basically everybody in Clackamas County except for Lake Oswego, Colton, I'd have to
Milwaukee.
list. Milwaukee PD is also is not part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee Fire, which is part of Clackamas, is part
right.
of it. So C-800 owns the system. CCOM operates the system.
Right.
And now what you're talking about is WACA. WACA and Washington County,
right,
for a better term, and CCOM are working together. We have an agreement with them. WACA actually maintains our system. We found it was cheaper to take our two systems and combine them as one, as parts were deleting years ago, and you start losing some of your overhead by doing it that way, so it was cheaper to go that route. LOCOM is on their own. Lake Oswego can afford to have their own dispatch, and they pick up Milwaukee. We have a vote just like anybody else. We actually bought into the C-800 system ourselves. So what we're talking about here is hardware and software to keep it running.
Well, and that's where I may be confused, because there was 2 or 3 different entities, and I specifically asked the question at the meeting that night. So we actually don't have a table at a seat at that table, and the answer was yes, you do not have a seat at that table.
What table?
I don't remember which entity it was. It might not have been C-800. Is there another governing body for our 911 operations? We were part of CCOM, and CCOM had a seat at the table, I believe, but we did not.
Unless you're referring to the executive board?
And that may be it.
Okay.
That may be it.
Other than being a member, I don't have a vote at that board. Now, Washington County WACA will be going out for their own bond to match ours. It'll be a little bit different rate based on their tax base, or tax value, I should say.
Can you explain a little bit more about the bonding? And I'm not talking about the bonding process. You said something about if we don't have 100% support, that's every entity in Clackamas County.
As part of C-800.
If they don't have a resolution from the council, they will not put it out to a vote of the people. Is that?
That's the way I understand it. It's supposed to be 100% agreement between the members of C-800. What are they going to do then? I don't know. Gladstone want to put up its own dispatch system? No.
But we're
Anybody else?
also, we're also paying a fee every month for them to operate a system,
Yes.
and they probably should put a little bit of money away for future technology upgrades, just as we do for all of our equipment, or hope to.
And you can do that to a point until manufacturers won't make it anymore.
Hold on a second. We gotta make it down the line here.
This is a cellular system. It's just there's cell sites, and it works like a cell phone system, except it's push to talk. In rough terms, you're gonna have cell sites and multiple antennas and all of that.
Yes.
Like a cell phone system, if you get a little far off the edge of the tower, your connection gets spotty. You might start dropping calls, etc.
Yes.
What assurances do we have that Gladstone, as part of this, will have good reception? That the closest tower won't be somewhere up north of Clackamas Town Center, but there will be something close by here that serves our city. Do we have any assurance of that, or is this left up to somebody else?
How about past practice? You're in the urban area, and I don't mean to be facetious. I'm saying,
all right.
You won't, looking at the maps that they've laid out today, I won't start hitting areas where I'll start losing signal until I start getting out around the Carver, Barton area, and that's going to be very limited. Mostly it's geographic. There are so many towers around us right now, I would assume that I could hit 5 towers without even thinking about it. Those towers will remain as part of the plan, in addition to the ones that we're going to put up.
So the existing towers are going to get C800 or 800 megahertz equipment, and there's going to be additional 800 megahertz towers as well. Okay.
Well, one thing about going to 800 megahertz is you're taking that bandwidth and making it smaller, and so you can't really project it as far, or more objects become an issue, and we're being forced into that through FCC and through the federal government.
Right, okay. I know we talked about this a little bit unofficially, but if indeed the next meeting is the 9th, can we wait until our meeting on the 8th and get a report as to what other cities have done? I'm not sure I would be in a position where all the other cities say absolutely not, and Gladstone's out there going, yeah, we're ready to go. Can we get that for our 8th of September meeting and revisit this then? Just a thought. Just a thought.
So you had one follow-up?
So, yeah, actually a couple. In regards to memo from Leslie Taylor and John Hartsack to on July 14th. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Paragraph under public opinion, they had taken a survey that shows 62 favorable vote after some education on the issue. So as an educator, I was curious as to what education or information was provided in the discussion, and what were the numbers before being educated?
I listened to the report when they gave it to us. I have a copy of that report, but I'm not ready to prepare that.
Can we get
answer
that
your
back
question.
to you?
I'm sorry, sir.
Sure.
We've got that question down.
So, and also back and forth is, I'm sorry.
But essentially, from what I recall of the reading of the report, is they would ask the question, people would give their answer, and then they would present the question a different way. Well, if you knew this, how would you feel? Basically, they were testing people to see what information triggers them over the side to swing their way.
And then another follow-up in regards to back and forth. I've heard we've gotten different information from other jurisdictions. So my question is, are all of our radios Project 25 Phase 1 compliant then?
No. For the last 4 years, as we purchased radios, as they've given up the ghost, and I have bought them to be compliant. But today, if I had to replace them all today, I'd be looking about 25 to 30 radios to bring all of them up to date.
And that's about $5,000 a piece?
Yes. And we've been budgeting for it.
So, and is that part of that would be what we would need to do, because there's a paragraph in here about needing to submit an order by next week,
Yeah,
or by this weekend.
after discussion with my officers, we're looking at 2 to 3 years out before we have to make the change.
Mhm.
I have a issue about giving up a piece of equipment that actually still works. So I think I would hold off on making my purchase until I had to. Of course, whoever's chief will make that. But mine today would say, I'm not gonna commit to buying 30 radios. Why throw away a $3,000 radio that still works?
Thank you.
There is another party, the police department, I believe, would be using all of this same system. So I would be interested to see if the police department has any comments on this.
You thought you were getting out of it.
I was doing pretty good, Stan. Jeff Jolly, Interim Police Chief for Gladstone Police Department. I've come in late to the party, but the information that I've received in the meetings that I've attended strongly indicate that we absolutely have to go to a system and enhance what we have now. If anyone's listened to the radio traffic that carries on and goes through the county, it's scratchy, it's not 100% dependable, systems are failing. They can't nurse this system along much longer. To be compliant with federal government and the standard in the industry, people are going to the 800 digital system. That's the way it has to go. This is a change that's going to have to come. We did it back in the Salt Lake area in 2000, but we had the Olympics as something to push us. Here, we're finding ourselves kind of behind the 8 ball, but we have to go to this system if we want clear, reliable, safe communications. And there's two counselors up there that can appreciate the necessity of having communication that's 100% dependable at all times, and I'm strongly behind this. For us to go this alone, to go back to having our own dispatch center, I feel is absolutely cost prohibitive, and we would spend more money, much more money in the long run, let alone having to buy the equipment and maintain it and the personnel costs. So this is the best and the cheapest option, I believe, for the citizens of the city.
Speaking of, do we have a monthly fee or a yearly fee for being part of C800?
For C800, I don't. Did Stan leave?
He bailed on you.
He's right. He's got your back.
No, for the CCOM, we pay for CCOM services. Appreciate you. We pay for CCOM services,
okay.
But the C800 is the equipment, the
right.
infrastructure,
right.
which is what this bond incorporates.
Right. So I'm just thinking in the future, would it be something like what Stan has done a great job with advocating that, every year we set aside $100,000+ for new apparatus, so when it's time to replace, we've got the money to do it, and that's thinking ahead, and so I don't know if that has been discussed, but I would think it would be something that maybe it should be. If back 10 years ago, all the entities paid into it as to their, maybe like with CCOM, we pay a certain amount because of our usage or size of city, versus like the sheriff's office pays, I know, a lot more than we do. Maybe that would be something that would help out in 10 or 15 years when this equipment wears out, that there's money then to be ready to purchase the next super duper equipment that comes that we are not even aware of yet, to keep you guys safe and do
I don't
things.
know what the long-term plans are for that, for planning for the future. I believe they're just trying to address the issues now and for the immediate next 20 years. And if you think back to the 1990s carrying the big brick phone and how technology has changed since then,
right.
We can't predict what the future
No,
will
but
be.
if we have the money there to wherever the future does take us, rather than have to go to the voters. I mean, we had a letter in the editor from Mr. Jones concerned about our seniors in town having, that are on a fixed income.
Right.
And, and granted, this is maybe just 4 or 5 lattes to some, but others it's $25 is a lot.
Oh, I get it. I don't want to minimize the impact. It's an inconvenience. Any tax, any fee to the citizens, to me, is hard to swallow. But without this, we're not going to be able to function or operate dependably.
Okay.
I just
I
want to say,
am ready to entertain a motion. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Stan. Chief, and Chief. So, Resolution 1065. Anybody want to make a motion?
I would. I'd like to make a motion that we approve Resolution 1065 for the C-800 bond measure on the May 2016 ballot.
A second.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilor McMahon, was seconded by Councilor Mercer. All in favor of resolution?
Discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Further discussion.
I actually was hoping to not make a decision on this. This is going before the voters, but it sounds like if we don't make a decision, that it won't be put before the voters. I think this is something that is needed. I don't know that this is the best plan or the most cost-effective plan. But I don't want to be the city that didn't allow it to go before the voters. So.
And how are we not allowing it to go before the voters?
If we do not pass this resolution, we could be, from what I heard from the chiefs, it would not go before the voters if they don't have 100% approval from the cities. So.
Thank you. Any further? Okay. All in favor of Resolution 1065, aye?
Aye.
Aye. All against? Okay, Resolution 1065 has passed. Item number 7, Resolution 1062, resolution to authorize contract with city administrator recruitment, and we've got the materials.
Yes, sir. The committee that council appointed to review the recruitment and the process, and as you recall, we came to you last time and asked to put out an RFP. Those RFPs were answered by 6 respondents. The committee evaluated them, narrowed them to 3, asked some supplemental questions of the 3, and came up with a recommendation today. And that recommendation is Prothman to do the recruitment for us. And so every place you have a blank under proposal, Prothman would be there. Prothman would then be under options. The dollar amount would be, dang it, I don't have my new resolution, $1,850.
$18,500.
$18,500, and the bottom would be Prothman as well. So
it's 18.5 plus expenses.
Plus expenses, yes, sir.
All of them, and when we did the math, they all came out to about $25,000. All 4 of the proposals.
Yeah.
So at this point, all we're doing is looking for staff a motion to contract with Prothman, and if you can make that motion, then we'll go ahead and get it in the.
I move that we direct staff to contract with Prothman for the recruitment of our next city administrator.
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion was made to authorize staff by Councilor Reisner, seconded by Councilor Johnson. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, I didn't hardly wait.
You're in a hurry.
All opposed. Sorry.
You forgot the discussion, too. No swearing.
Okay. Item number 8, Resolution 1061, approval of ballot title and caption authorizing the city to begin a project over $1 million.
The council, I've had discussion with several of the councilors on this item, and a change that should be made, I think, would be on page 8-3 under the summary. In the last sentence of the first paragraph under summary, it said the buildings will be constructed on separate parcels. we'd like to change the will to may, so it may be constructed on separate parcels. But other than that, the resolution stands as it is.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 1061 as amended.
Second it.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilor Sickman on Resolution 1061, was seconded by Councilor Mercero. Discussion.
One thing that there is in here under the on 8-3 on the bullet points in the summary, sale of certain city properties, $3 million estimated. One of the things that I think needs to be made clear is there is a lot of due diligence that needs to be done on that before that property could go up for sale. I mean, this has been talked about time and time again, but if we're going forward with a ballot measure, I want to go on record that we need to look at either zoning, deed restrictions, some code changes, so we don't end up in the same place that we did here 15 years ago. So.
And I don't think you have to explain that right now, but we probably need some sort of a process to go through. Perhaps I can speak with you all individually or in one-on-ones and try to get that process lined out for you to approve. I don't know whether I can get here by September, but certainly the October meeting should get some process for that, because I intend to meet with industrial realtor from Kidder Matthews tomorrow. Is going to come in and visit me on that parcel and what it would take to get it sold. Even I'm not even quite certain of that. So I'm going to start there. I'll keep you guys posted where I'm at on that, but I agree with you.
Nothing else?
Nothing.
No. Okay. All in favor of passing Resolution 1061? Aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, Resolution 1061 is passed. Item number 9, Resolution 1060, a resolution approving contract with MSA for professional service to complete the sanitary sewer master plan.
I would like to introduce Michael Carr. Come on up, please. It was with Murray Smith and Associates. I think I'm going to let him talk to you guys if you have any questions on this master planning proposal. Thank you.
Hello. Hi there. Mike Carr, Murray Smith and Associates, Principal Engineer. I live in Portland, Oregon, 1607 Southeast 51st. And didn't make a presentation, just here to answer questions.
Just questions. Want to make sure he's here to help you guys out with that.
One of the questions I have is, we have got another master plan that was just completed. We've been led to believe there may be a lot of data there that will be transferable to you. Have you seen that, and have you figured that in at all?
We have figured it in. We met with Ross and Scott Tabor a few weeks ago. We've talked to Pat Sissel as well, and in fact, I believe we've got Pat included, Sissel Engineering included in our proposal just for a minor amount to coordinate with them.
Yes.
But we are expecting a whole lot of data from them that was collected during the Stormwater Master Plan.
Okay.
Yep.
That's all I had.
Anybody else?
I want to kind of extend on that question. It was pretty much put to the council that the sewer system master plan was not going to be taken as near as long and or be involved as the water storm sewer, and that gee whiz, and this has been a few months ago, I'll have to add, that gee whiz, we can get it completed by the end of this year. Okay, with your time requirements, it's going to be a year and a half from this point to be done. And a year and a half seems a lot more than being done by the end of this year. Knowing you haven't been involved in the council's difficulties of getting some answers, can it be shortcut, or is there a reason to shortcut, and or is there an option? Will it cost more? Just some thoughts.
Yeah. Well, the schedule we presented in our scope of work is essentially about a 13 to 14 month, not quite a year and a half, maybe about, I think we're showing completion at the end of September of 2016. Now, really the driver that is baked into this schedule is flow monitoring that happens in the winter months. And this is really a necessary part of the plan, where have flow meters installed. We've got 7 in the proposal throughout the system, throughout the collection system, and the idea is to try to measure the peak wet weather flows, a big peak weather storm that occurs, because that's what taxes your sewer system. And so really that has to happen for the winter months, and we've got it proposed for November to the beginning of February. And so we really, whether we started 3 months ago or we started 3 months from now, we would really want to capture that flow monitoring during the winter, because that's really that's when you're having your overflows and such. And so once that data is collected, then it takes a few months to process it, run a computer model, and then start to develop lists of deficiencies and doing cost estimates from there. So I think we've got a schedule that's reasonable. It doesn't extend it too far, but captures that flow monitoring period with enough time to really analyze it afterwards.
I may have missed it in here someplace. What other cities have you done sewer flow studies for?
Our firm, well, we've done master planning for Gresham. We're doing one for the city of Sherwood right now. I've done work for, or we've done work for Oregon City, Sheridan. I could list a number of others. I've done a lot of work. We've done some work for West Lynn that wasn't necessarily master planning work, but sewer planning work.
When you do master plans for those cities, do they typically do a rate and system development charge study? Do they all do it typically, or is it unusual, or what do you think?
It's typical to do it. They don't necessarily. Some cities will do them separately once the master plan is done under a separate contract. Some cities do them together under the same contract. But really, the master plan gets done. It develops cost estimates and a list of a capital improvements program. Once those numbers are generated, it makes sense at that point to roll that into the financial evaluation, so that you can get your rates, understand what impact it has on rates, because that's ultimately what needs to be enacted to make the system deficiencies improvements.
And then I have a question for Mr. Schultz.
Yes, sir.
My understanding is that we have $150,000 budgeted for this.
Yes, sir.
I think you went over before how to pay for that and where the money comes from out of other budget. Can you go over that real quickly?
Well, I can't, except they don't have the budget in front of me right this second, but one of the items is probably a large chunk of this will be in next year's budget, so you would then budget. We also have an account for events that are not yet seen in the neighborhood of $900,000. I believe there will be sufficient funds there unless some kind of crisis hits, and at that point we'll be looking for other monies as well. But those are my two proposals.
Thank you.
Your plan is to have this done by September of next year, and and if I missed it, I apologize. What happens if you're not?
What happens if we're not? Well, I'm trying to think of what would be the agreement, the language in the agreement. I don't have an answer specifically for you.
If I may,
please.
If they're not done, they won't get paid. I mean, that's one. So The only other thing is I guess...
Well, I mean, it spells out that we pay them on, when they invoice within 30 days. And I just bring this up from recent experience with another contractor doing another master plan that went awry in regards to completion date.
One of the things I would recommend is in any contract we develop here is just something that does speak to, time is of the essence, you follow the schedule that's laid out. The reality is that in any project there's externalities that may not be the fault of the contractor, it might not be the fault of the city. That's sort of inherent in some of this stuff. So we can say basically, look, if it's something that's controllable, that MSA has control over, then there should be some consequence for that. Usually I would have something that talks about, for lack of a better word, a liquidated damages provision that says, for X amount of time over the deadline, the price would go down or something like that. But I think it's also, in fairness, there has to be an acknowledgement that delays aren't just always solely the result of a contractor.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
But when we had I'm trying to think which plan that...
the Brown-Caldwell contract.
Right, contract, where we gave them an extension, which wasn't met, and it,
I mean, theoretically you could terminate the contract.
And it kind of went, right.
Theoretically you could terminate the contract, but the reality is that, then what? The likelihood of you getting...
Then we got to start all over and we're out a lot of money.
Well...
And nobody would take the bid.
Yeah.
Well, So I mean, that's just it. We kind of got stuck. We're 2 years behind because of that.
And I don't doubt that. I guess but you are where you are right now.
Right. True. So isn't the contract 9-18 through 21?
Yes. It does have a time schedule on there.
Well, it does, but it doesn't say as to... I mean, it had a time schedule on the Brown and Caldwell, too.
Yeah, normally what we would do, and I don't mean to jump in here, Ross.
No.
Step where I'm not supposed to. I mean, normally I would suggest a contract that we develop, that we work with MSA.
Okay.
And, you basically have a somewhat template personal services contract. Normally I say start from that. And, again, it's one of these things where you need to balance the need to get information to the consultant, and also hold the consultant accountable for things that are within their wheelhouse.
Right. No, and I agree, and I understand that.
The resolution...
I just am leery.
I mean, what Brown and Caldwell said was that there was data, and we're not trying to dig up what happened. It's done. It's over. You got money back from them. But they claim that the city was late in getting a lot of information to them. So, again, it's inherent in any of these projects.
Yes, Mr. Schultz.
The resolution states therefore that the documents to be accomplished in Exhibit A in a form approved by city attorney. So that's our reference to the city attorney looking at these documents and making sure that we're protected. So that's just part of the process to sign these documents.
Okay.
And
I apologize. I thought he already had.
No. At this point, staff doesn't sign them unless you look at the council or our legal counsel and say, is this a good one to sign or not?
And I don't get I don't get into reviewing them, Councilor Reisner, because I don't know that you're actually going to make the motion.
Okay,
I'm not going to spend your money.
No aspersions to you.
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So if it doesn't rain at all, then it really foobars you, and you're going to be another year behind. Is that correct?
Well,
so that's not within your bailiwick, as they say, correct?
It is challenging because if it doesn't really rain, then you don't get the storm. Yes. You don't get the data that you want to see, but you've paid for the flow monitoring, you've paid for the study, and so what ends up happening is we end up extrapolating, and you're extrapolating a long way, which means you're just guesstimating further, but we use our engineering judgment. We take the best shot we can, and we move forward with that. And we'll look backwards as well with data. 2012 is there's a storm in January 2012 that a lot of the cities are using to go back and look what happened then. Unfortunately, we won't have flow monitoring for that. That's specific to areas, because one of the things we want to capture and understand is I&I as it relates to areas of the city. And if it doesn't rain, it's hard to it's hard to know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I lost track. Did we have a motion and a second, or was that just question and answer, and now we're going with the
Question and
motion
answer, I
and
think.
second?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'd
thank
like to
you.
make a motion that we approve Resolution 1060.
I'll second.
All right, the motion was made by Councilor McMahon. It was seconded by Councilor Reisner. All in favor?
Discussion?
Oh, yes. Thank you, thank you. I thought we had that. Usually when we're talking, I figured we had those. Discussion.
Just, yes, which one are we approving here? The $160,000 project or the $198,000 project?
Well, that's a good question.
Staff report indicates $198,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You want the Cadillac?
And if I can just offer one thing, I mean, storm is a part of it, water was certainly a part of it, but your sewer SCC, I would recommend that you add it. I think it's got to get done. MSA has excellent experience in that regard. If you're not going to pay them to do it, you're probably going to pay somebody else. And it's really one of the critical, if not the critical piece of this project.
The motion does not say that? The resolution does not say that?
It does, the resolution says Exhibit A, and Exhibit A, I guess, doesn't necessarily spell out, but I'm assuming that it's, if you want to include that, I suppose that
I
just
would
makes
just say with optional task 9.
So you could make a motion to amend it? Well, do you have to table this motion, or can you make that?
We're pretty informal with that. No, you can just you can add it to the motion, that's fine.
So just add it to the motion with...
So moved.
Second.
There you go.
Okay.
Discussion.
That's done.
All right. So you made the motion to throw the dollar amount in, correct?
Yes, I did.
$198,000?
Yes.
And you seconded it? So
Correct.
that's been, the amendment's been made to Resolution 1060. Is there any further discussion on Resolution 1060? Okay. All in favor of Resolution 1060?
Aye.
All opposed? No. Okay. Resolution 1060 has passed.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 10, appointment to Senior Center Advisory Board. There's no staff report. There's 2 vacancies and there's 2 applications, correct?
Yes, sir.
So is there nothing?
You want a motion? I move that we
Appoint both?
appoint both to the Senior Center Advisory Board.
I'll second that.
Somebody say something? No. All right, I had a motion to appoint both Liberta Droz and Nikki Squires, the applicants for the Senior Center Advisory Board, by Councilor Reisner, seconded by Councilor McMahon. Discussion.
Is...
Are we really on an appointment?
Any motion?
Really? All right. Learn something new every day.
Do these both have same expiration dates on these appointments, or do they have different expiration dates?
If I may ask Rhonda to come up and talk to you guys on that question. Thank you.
Looking good.
Expiration, but they're taking over somebody that resigned, so I'm sure they're going to have different dates. These are 2 really good volunteers.
Cool.
One has volunteered at the Senior Center multiple years and is part of the community for a long, long time, raised her children here. Nikki's fairly new to the community, but has been very active in our Senior Center. Very capable people. And I invited them to come up and say a little talk, but they kind of were a little shy. But Pat met one. Did you meet 1 or 2 today?
At least one. She was the receptionist there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Counselor, I'll get that information to you about the expiration of the dates. I'll send it out to all council.
Well, I just want to make sure that we appoint one to one date and another one to the other date
In
our appointment.
I have the dates up here, so, but who, so, one date expires December 31st of 2015, and
they're still on, probably.
that's listed as vacant.
Okay.
But everybody else, it looks like, Rhonda, that there is in a slot. So who else resigned?
I get my information from Tammy.
Okay, then I can't help.
So, what I would like to do is have you motion to appoint them to the board. Next time we'll come back with a motion to set the dates, if that's okay. Or if you just want to see it next time. I don't think there's anything pressing, is there?
Council has no problem with it.
I just need them by October
I would-
20-something.
I would just recommend the way they are in the packet. The first one have we know the December 2015 date. And then the second one, the Nikki Squires, would be the other appointment to whichever the other date is. They both came in on the 28th. They're both signed on the 28th, so they both came in the same day. Unless somebody has...
I'll amend my motion. Reflect that.
Works for me. I mean, it's up to you guys.
No.
I mean, somebody's going to have to go short and somebody's going to have to go long. It's just,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
And I'll have another vacancy at the end of the year because she said she's not returning, so that would be my secretary.
Okay, but we still don't really know the date of the second one. We know the first one's
Right.
12/31 and 15, so the
We can
second one we don't know.
I'll
Have
send
that
that to
list
council.
there? Can I come back there and look?
What's that?
Sure.
Yeah, well, we can maybe end it right now.
Tell you if I see my list.
Wanda Cochran, I sent a resignation letter, so Wanda would be the other one.
And that's the same date.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there
Wow.
we go.
There's
Makes
10
that
minutes out of
easy.
my life.
Welcome to government, Mayor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thanks, Rhonda. Doing a great job.
All right.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of those two appointments as mentioned? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. There you go, Roberta Droz and, what's that?
Boots.
Oh,
Goes. Boots first.
a little decorum, Rhonda. And Nikki Squires. All right. Okay, down to, we had an add-on, item number 11 by interim
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Counselor, I would like to request a motion from council to direct staff to enter into a contract with McKinsey Architectural to not exceed an amount of $22,300 to accomplish evaluations as discussed in executive discussion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, motion was made by Counselor Johnson, was seconded by Counselor Sickman. Let's have...
Reisner.
Reisner, I'm
Still
sorry.
German, but
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay.
Discussion on the item? Or we can't, it was...
Well,
Oh, yeah, I guess
Yeah,
we could.
I
Are we
suppose
gonna
you
do it or
can
not do it?
some, but you don't.
I have nothing.
Nothing, nothing? Okay, all in favor of having the interim enter in that contract? Say aye.
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 All opposed? So done? Carry on. Okay, now we are moving down to, we want to have the appointment of city council. We down to that right now, correct? Okay. All right, so, starting, you all have your 3 minutes to come up and introduce yourself or speak or whatever you guys want to do, and you can waive it if you want, and we just... We have Tammy Temple?
I waive it.
You're good? Malachi? You're good? Susan Turner? You're good? Get used to speaking in front of the mic, y'all. Oh, I know you are. And then Ken Hines? Is there a Ken Hines
He
here?
was here previously. He might have had to leave.
All right, well, no one wishes to speak at this time, so we have, for the people putting in for the vacant city council, I just kind of want to mention, we have talked about this, amongst ourselves or with the interim city manager, there seems to be a little bit of variance between the council rules on appointment to the city council and the city charter rules, the appointment to the city council. So we're trying to honor both of them. What we're going to do is we have a written ballot with all 4 names on it. The councilors will make their selection, pass it down, fold the paper, pass it down to Jolene, at which time she'll tally the results to see if we have a majority vote. And then from there, we'll discuss what we're going to do next.
The majority means 4 councilors.
A majority under the rules means a majority, which means 3. Under the charter, it means 4.
Right.
So that's
Charter
where
would be superior, I think.
Should be 4.
Should be 4. Right.
Yep.
Okay. If we do not have 4, then we will have to repost this whole thing and start over. So, okay. Everybody has any questions? We've got the ballot in front of us?
Yeah, so I guess I do. So what's the process? So we're going to vote one time, and if we don't get 4, then we will repost. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I
don't
think
wanna-
well, it depends on if you
further?
want to move to the rules. See, that's where I have the issue, because the rules talk about then going into a discussion.
So there is a piece that's between the charter and the rules that maybe one or none of you actually saw. I didn't think to look at it until today, but you have code language.
What do we have?
You adopted an ordinance on this process.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And the mayor's right. There's ambiguity in your charter as to how this works. Arguably, one could argue that the mayor has the ability to make an appointment and that the council then votes up and down on that appointment. One could also argue, based on the language, that because it isn't clear in one section that deals with filling vacancies, who makes that appointment. It's in the passive voice, so it's not that it doesn't say the mayor shall make the appointment, it says the appointment shall be made, right? And the question is, well, then who makes it? So, I think this came up. My hunch is that you probably had this discussion in the past, previous council. You have an ordinance that addresses this, and that's perfectly appropriate. There's ambiguities in charters, just like there are in codes. You can have a code provision that sort of fleshes it out. It's Section 4, Chapter 403030, deals with vacancies in office, appointment by council. And you've pretty much, as far as I understand, you've got public notice to civic groups, newspaper, general circulation, other recognized groups, have the deadline for submitting applications. And then it talks about appointment. I'm just going to read it. The appointment from those applicants nominated and seconded for consideration by members, appointment from those applicants nominated and seconded for consideration by members of the council. That's what it says. It's not really a clear sentence, but that's what it says. The recorder will announce the results of each ballot and will record each councilor's vote. An applicant who receives a majority of the votes by the current council members will be appointed to the vacant position. If no applicant receives a majority vote on the first ballot, the council will continue to vote on the 2 applicants who received the most votes until an applicant receives a majority of the councilors voting. Yes, sir.
So on 4.03020, it says filling a vacancy, you will, as provided by City Charter Section 33. So how do you... how do you get from there down
I'd
to
love
the
to know
next
the convoluted process this took, but I can imagine that probably what happened is that we got back to Section 33.
Yeah, which says
and it says fill by appointment, and the majority of the council shall be required to validate the appointment. Again, it doesn't clearly say that it's the mayor who appoints. There's another section that talks about the mayor appointing to committees, right? But the charter uses committees and council, and presumably they're 2 totally different things, and I would think that most people would assume, yes, committees are something different than the council. So, my sense, and again, I don't know the history of this ordinance, but is that you confronted this, it said go back to Section 33, and it's this sort of, here we go around the hamster wheel, and this is what you ended up with, essentially, is this language that basically, as I read it in plainer language, somebody makes a motion to nominate somebody. If it gets a second, great, that person is on the board, so to speak. Anybody can make that nomination of people that have applied, and whether it's 1 or 3, if it's 1, it's pretty obvious, and you got to vote on that. If it's more than 1, then you essentially look to see if it's 2, who gets a majority vote, if that happens. So,
If a majority does not exist, what stops us from sending this to the people to vote on? Is there specific language that prevents that in an election, like Westland and Happy Valley have done?
I don't think there would be anything preventing it. Your charter and your code clearly contemplate an appointment from council of the open seat. So theoretically, arguably, the answer would be there is nobody appointed until the next election, rather than forwarding it to the voters at a special election.
And the election registrar, or whoever that is, said he wouldn't do it unless it was in the charter that way. So I think there's another hurdle that may be there. I ain't saying it is, but when I talked to him, he said, if it's not in your charter, we won't take it. So
So that was from the elections office?
that was from the elections office.
Well, and the code does say you vote on the 2 applicants who receive the most votes until an applicant receives a majority of the councilors voting, so...
Bring your cots. We're staying here all night.
I mean, it says it there,
Sorry,
so...
folks, it's gonna be a late one.
Yeah.
All right, well, so...
Now, the other option you'd have here is
clear as mud.
Yeah, clear as mud. You wouldn't be able to do this tonight, of course, but you could completely rework this, something that still honors the charter, but is some different process. I don't see anything wrong with that, but you'd have to get rid of this first. I mean, this is here. A council adopted this. It's law. So.
All right. So, please, someone enlighten me. We're going to nominate, someone's going to nominate someone, and then we get to say, yeah, I'm for that person, and then we tally the amount. So, we will go down the list and do it for every person, and if nobody speaks up for the 4th person, then they're getting no votes.
Then that's right. So
it's got to be nominated first.
The way I understand it, you can have as many nominees as you want, so you could have 4, and then you take your vote, and then someone's got to have a majority, which would be 4.
That's right.
Then if you don't have the 4, then you get to confab until you either get 4 or you all go bust.
All right.
Okay.
Technical terms.
We have 4 applicants. Can the motion include all 4 applicants?
Was my question.
I think you get to make the rules on this.
I don't see why not. I mean, they're.
Okay.
I think if they weren't people that applied, that would be maybe problematic under your code. If they all applied, I think someone could just say, I nominate all 4. Now it's got to get a second and a vote, and then at that point, you start voting on the 4.
I'd like to nominate all 4 applicants that are in the city council packet.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Sickman, second by Councilor McMahon to... Can I finish my sentence? To include all 4, nominate all 4 people on our ballot that put in for it. Discussion. Okay.
I want to thank all 4, or actually 5, that initially put in, and for stepping up and wanting to get more involved in the city, and just remind those that aren't appointed. There's 3 positions open next year, and to encourage you to run and stay involved. So that's all.
Okay. All in favor of the 4 nominations?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
Okay.
That's what the vote was, whether it was 4 or not. So.
Okay. So now, are we going to our ballot, or are we going to do...
You can go to your ballot.
Let's go to our ballots, folks.
Okay.
There you go.
This is awesome.
It's government at its best.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
I'm telling you.
And after the last 2.5 weeks, and it's been...
It
ain't pretty, but
awesome. No.
It's all about the process.
I wish I had my class here. This would be fun. Have them all in the front row.
They all get A's.
Well, they already are, but that's, well, almost.
If it's council's pleasure, while the votes are being tallied, I
Oh, we could do business from the audience again.
Well, we could do
Oh, sorry.
discussion items.
Discussion items?
Which could
Okay.
move us down the...
Okay, go ahead.
Yep. So I've got a couple of things. Talk about Metro Council coming next council meeting, which is going to be September 8th. And we will not have a second meeting right now, as far as I can tell, for the month of August. So anybody sitting here thinking about that, looks like September 8th is our next time to get together. We've talked in one-on-ones with many of the councilors, would like to have some sort of an open house. I wrote it down here as September, probably October's as soon as we could get that together. We could talk about, we just passed a resolution tonight to go to the ballot. That could be discussed at an open house. Could talk about the Tri-City status. That's certainly an interesting one. We had a presentation from Wes tonight. Some of that stuff should get out there. I'm certain they would man a booth at the open house. Would be glad to keep talking about that at our one-on-ones. If you'd like me to start looking at dates in October, I'd be glad to do that. That's kind of the first thing, and then...
Is that town hall, you mean?
Yeah, town hall,
whatever.
open house, however else you want to...
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Everybody think it's worth pursuing further. I'll try to get an agenda together and then get it to each of you through email and then go from there, I guess. I would like to talk, we have a project list that you guys developed back, I think, in February. I'm going to start including that project list. I don't have the first one tonight. I just kind of thought about this, but I'd like to put that project list in the first council packet of every month with status on it. May not change a whole lot, but if there's other projects that need to go on the list, you guys can help me add them. I'll get them on, get them defined, and then I'll tell you where we're at. And some of them we took care of tonight, actually. So anyway, I'll do that for the September 8th meeting and get that on there. And with that, that's all I have on any of the discussion items from myself.
Okay. Do we have the tally?
A three-way tie.
Oh, wow.
This is where you get to debate.
And I'm not sure who the top three were, but maybe Jolene can tell us that.
The three-way tie was between Susan Turner, Tammy Semple, and Malachi D'Elfwald.
Goodness. Well, it says we confab now, correct? And if we can't get a resolution, if we can't get a majority after this second after the confab, then we put it back out, correct? That's the way it is.
I mean, I think, yeah, I think, well, the code talks about basically until an applicant receives a majority of councilors voting. Obviously, that may be impossible, right? And in that case, I think, number one, I think I'd want to think a little bit more about what the legalities of putting it on the ballot and talk to the elections folks and see if that's even possible. But I think you'd have to come back at some point and then decide what you're going to do, whether you're going to go back out again or whether you're just going to leave it vacant until the next election.
The elections director, Sherry Hall, is in the audience if she has a ruling on that. Put her on the spot.
What your charter says, and then you give it to us.
Fair enough, but the charter is pretty ambiguous about what happens here.
You're a lawyer, you can interpret it.
Right, you're right, but I guess it sounds like there's been some communication on this that I'm not privy to. Is that true that if
There has been communication.
Okay.
I don't believe the Gladstone charter allows for an election to fill the vacancy. See section 33, which I have a copy of. You referred to that, but you also referred to other things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, maybe the shortcut could be that if the elections department, we're not going to get in a big fight about this, I don't think.
You referred your manager to the city attorney, which is you, right?
Mm-hmm.
See what the charter calls for.
Right, and the charter, and that's, yeah.
Some cities, Milwaukee and Westland, are filling vacancies in November, but that's because their charter allows it.
Sure.
This one doesn't.
Well, I wouldn't say it prohibits it. I guess it just doesn't speak to it.
It doesn't talk about it.
Correct, but that doesn't mean it doesn't allow it. It's different than saying it's prohibited. It just doesn't speak to it. So, anyway, I will, you know, I don't. If the council really wants to go there, we can certainly look at that further.
May I add, though, making November would be difficult right now because you know the dates better than I do.
Okay, well, you have to get everything done through you.
Right.
So that you can get it to us by September 3rd.
September.
That's the deadline.
All the names would have to be...
Cutoff date in our code would be 70 days prior to the election, which is August 25th, which is 14 days from right now. The charter also says that you have to have 10 days to advertise the election. I don't know if that's 10 days prior to November 3rd or if it's 10 days prior to the cutoff date of August 25th. In either case, we're 10 days ahead of both of them. That's what the charter says. Right.
Did you just vote on the top three again? Isn't that how that used to be done?
We would have a discussion, then we'll vote again to see if we get a majority. And then this was like the backup plan, assuming we can't come to a majority vote.
On just a second. Excuse me.
Director is on the ball here.
I'm sorry. She's on the clock. I'm sorry.
Sherry, did you say something else?
Please.
Well, you're kind of missing the tiebreaker. You've only got 6 members, and the 7th one would be the tiebreaker, but that's the one you need to vote on.
Right, no, yeah, but we still need 4 votes for the majority. So, yeah.
Well, you have to. I mean, nothing happens. It's a null set. 3 against, 3 for. It's not a majority.
Right.
It's certainly not the way your code defines a majority.
But you're reading it. It has to be 4.
You have to have 4.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Confab time.
I think we should send it to the people for a vote and have our attorney work with Sherry Hall and staff and find out if that's even possible. If it's not possible, I think we re-advertise it.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
So, do we want to entertain any conversation now to re-vote?
Can I bring you one more piece of information? The cost of the election. That might make a difference in how you vote.
$5,000.
But
we're already paying for the...
We're going to be paying for one already with
so it'd be
resolution.
would be another 5?
The whole election is divided among all of those who submit something to the ballot. But to estimate it's 50 to 70 cents per voter.
Oh, okay.
You want that? No.
But thank you, Sherry.
Sherry, for clarification, we're looking at, we just directed to move forward with a ballot for the November ballot.
Right.
So we will already be paying the $5,000. Would this be another $5,000?
No.
Okay.
It's going to be divided so far that we know of between Gladstone, Gladstone, Westland, and Milwaukee. And we've just heard from a fire district today that they might have something. So the more we get, the less it'll be for everybody.
Oh. So I don't think it's going to be...
We owe it to ourselves to get on the ballot. No.
So Tom, please, what do you want to do? We want to try to figure if we can get to a majority? You want to have a discussion? Revote? You want to call a recess, talk, come back? What do you want to do?
I can see opportunities if you do it both ways, so I really don't care.
No.
I'd like to revote. And as far as going to the ballot right now, I think the code is pretty clear on what we're supposed to do. I agree we need to change it and update it. But right now, the charter says either you, depending on how you read the charter, appoint, or through the code, it is an appointment through the city council. And I'd like to continue, at least this time, with what the code is. So I'd like to revote.
Okay. But just to revote, or we're going to have a conversation about...
Can we have a private conversation?
We cannot.
No.
Recess.
No, you can't, not all together. I mean,
no, but we can call a recess and...
Well,
you can't talk together as a council.
Yeah, but 2 of us can talk.
Two of you could.
Yeah.
2 of you could.
Why don't we do that? 5-minute recess.
Okay.
and not everybody join up together.
Do we need to get white smoke?
No. All right.
So not everybody
Folks,
headed to the
bear with
bathroom.
us. 5-minute recess. We'll be back at 20 of. 7-minute recess. 20 of. Okay.
Sure.
You know what you've been missing?
I've been trying.
Oh, yes.
I've been trying to spare him from you.
Work up
Sorry.
No. I mean, that's. Oh no, I'm happy to be here. No, this is one of the hardest things that councils have to do, and it's frustrating because they don't want to make it look bad. You know, it's all well intentioned, but it's. Yeah, that's what I said. You could just wait until the next election.
Do you think we could do that?
I think so. I mean, what you know.
It says you shall appoint. Of course, I look
But
at that.
that assumes you can actually do it. There's nothing that guarantees you can actually do that. You know what I mean? And so
that is an option.
I mean, as
Yeah. Well, I got damn, what's all that about? I really struggled with it because she could be in an emergency, so I was going to be hell on wheels and trying to All right.
Expired 12/31 of 2016.
2008. The term ends in.
2006.
Oh, yeah.
12/31.
Okay, so that's yeah, more than that. 18 months? Well, where are we? August. Right, but before you have a city council, that would be January of 2017. That's a pretty damn powerful.
Started the real estate thing today. Trying to get involved in Rotary, trying to get I got it. All right.
Yeah.
One down.
That's what I'm saying.
All right.
I don't think you're going to get it.
There's nobody that expired.
Okay, and so there are obviously at least two councilors and maybe the mayor. Mayor's a 4-year term, right? Councilors are 2?
No. We're all 4. So it's Mercer, David, it's Mercero, Reisner, and this position.
Are expiring as of December 2016.
I have the same, when you go out, we didn't use it any. You're right.
I have a question, because I have, the 33 one on here. What did you refer to that was a contradiction of this?
Well, it's not in contradiction. So you have the charter, right? And that's the sort of the big beast, right? Nothing can contradict it.
Right, exactly. Okay, this is the charter.
Right, we're looking at the same one. So
you're talking about code.
Correct. So if you read this,
can
I walk you through it? Yeah, I just want to walk you through why.
Okay.
So vacant elected officers in the city shall be filled by appointment. Majority of the vote of the council shall be required to validate the appointment. Okay.
Okay, and it doesn't say who makes the appointment.
Correct.
Okay.
So what they did, apparently, at least this is the best I can conclude, is that they said, you know what, that's really frustrating. We had to come up and flesh that out somehow, which a lot of cities would do. And so they adopted this code provision that basically says, okay, here's how we're going to do it. Put some meat to the bone.
Might as well have one more.
No, the previous council, 2011, it looks like you were.
Okay, yeah, because this one was, November of 84.
That's the charter, right?
Right.
So this is an ordinance.
Okay, and it's ordinance 1433 2011.
Right. Now, the problem is that doesn't tell us any time anything is amended. Like, even if a word was changed, it's going to show that ordinance. That's not when necessarily this was enacted. That could have been years ago, many years ago.
Okay, and one more thing. I don't know where you're getting the majority numbers, but in elections, like in our county offices, the commissioners can be elected in the primary if they get 50% plus one.
Correct.
And then others have to be elected in November because of the way they're constitutional or, whatever.
Yeah, so that's not, but 3 and 3 is 50%, and that's great.
A majority is 50% plus one.
Right, but how do you, I'm not sure what you're saying. 3 and 3 is not 50% plus 1, it's 50%, 50%.
But this is a 7-member council, 1 member.
Correct.
So what, and you
It's a
said
majority of the
So
quorum.
it's, right, it's a quorum, which is 4.
Correct.
Right, okay. Yeah, but I don't think you can go on the ballot.
Yeah, no.
No, nothing addresses
So-
putting it on the ballot, but.
Right, and that, I defer to you guys on that. I mean, if that's the policy, that's the policy. I'm not, like I said, that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to sit here and be.
Because with us talking the state election,
I'm told.
One entity that says that's not on board. Don't even have to say no, you just have to not be considered.
It was the way the law said. If it's not addressed.
I know.
Yeah, sure. No, that's just it. I don't claim to say that you'd have an obligation to put it on the ballot.
But the other thing too, last time I was here when there was a counselor appointed, which was Hickman, who was appointed to the ballot. And they voted publicly. They didn't do a fresh ballot like you're doing.
Yeah, they do that differently. I mean, someone could ask for the tally.
Somebody brought me all this candy.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, what I do is simply say, no one's going to call them on it. If someone called them and said, I want to know who voted how, absolutely.
Well, I know who brought me this, but I don't know who brought me those.
So if you want to request that, you're welcome.
Thank
you.
No. You're all elected people, right?
Yeah.
I don't get much. You got a Snickers bar there.
No, but I hate to break it open right now and have to share it,
We all saw how the counselors voted, and we want to see that again, because you are elected officials, and that's part of the organization.
And that is absolutely public knowledge. You don't need to do it that way. You've done it the way you did it. That's fine. But if someone asks, I want to know how you individually voted.
Are your names on the ballot? Did you turn in? I think we need to know how you vote.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with it.
Right? I mean, that's what we remember the initial conversation, that's what we're going to do anyway. We're going to do the ballot, narrow it down, then do the voice vote. So we were, do it.
Now, are they requesting how we voted the first time, or are they requesting the next vote be?
I don't know.
I don't think it says anything.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. What was
Well, it doesn't say anything we have to do that. They could always request what the vote said. I mean,
correct.
as far as the first.
That's why I didn't force you to do it. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you did anything wrong. But I think if someone asks, and she has, then clearly they're entitled to know what each individual counselor is voting.
I was afraid that when Dominic brought this idea up.
There's probably a better forum issue. But look it up. Pretty shocking.
All right.
No, we just can do voice vote.
Oh.
All right?
Okay.
Satisfy everything.
Yeah, well.
Okay, Steve is on his way. Well, he's not here yet.
We don't
You
have
lost him?
We don't have an even number.
He stopped.
Ooh,
Let's
Let's
do it, yeah.
Good.
Now you can vote.
Three.
Very cunning.
Always thinking.
I mean, that was really good. Come on, Steve.
Staring at me.
Please,
I love a TikTok.
Hey, give him these. David likes.
Sorry. Sorry, Tic Tac accent.
Steve Johnson.
Boy, just ended up becoming nothing.
Yeah.
To the podium.
There he
Pump
is.
for the Metro. Mento. Mentos?
You're all noise in the background like that.
Thank you, Jolene.
Oh, yeah, they say we're back in session. Is that the word terminology?
Sure.
Okay, we are now back in session. Is that right? Okay. We will now, we have confab, and now we will do a voice vote, a new voice vote on the 4 nominees.
Yep.
Three, I'm sorry, 3.
Okay, so I'll go down the line. I'll start with Councilor McMahon. Councilor McMahon.
Susan Powers.
No, dang it. Turner.
Turner?
Excuse me. I don't have my list in front of me now. Yes. Susan Turner.
Okay.
Oh, confabulated.
Councilor Reisner.
She's gonna mug you after
Councilor
this.
Reisner.
Oh, me. Tammy Simple.
Councilor Sickman.
Susan Turner.
Councilor Mercero.
Susan Turner.
Councilor Johnson.
Malachi D'Alfold.
And Mayor Jacob Ellis.
Susan Turner.
Okay, that's 4 for Susan Turner, 1 for Malachi, and 1 for Tammy Simple.
Okay, so we have voted, and we have our majority vote.
So, I hate to belabor this, but I not to process right, I do want you to have a motion and a second to that effect, just to make it an official, you made a voice vote, sort of like a straw poll. If you could do it now, that would be the official appointment.
So you're
Okay.
going to move the appointment of Susan Turner.
Correct.
To council.
I'd like the opportunity to get the name right, so I would like to move that we nominate Susan Turner to the city council vacancy.
Appoint. Second.
Motion was made to appoint Susan Turner to the city council, was seconded by Councilor McMahon, seconded by Councilor Sickman. Discussion. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No, sorry, I banged too fast. Okay, Susan Turner has been appointed to the city council. Congratulations, and we're here to swear in.
Might as well.
You're the one?
Good.
Steve, you want to come up? What we're going to say, I'll repeat, I'll say, then you repeat, and you can join me. Okay? So raise your right hand. I,
Susan Turner,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the State of Oregon
and of the State of Oregon
and the Charter and Municipal Code
and the Charter and Municipal Code
of the City of Gladstone,
of the City of Gladstone,
and that I will,
to
the best of my ability, perform the duties of City Councilor
perform the duties of City Councilor
for the City of Gladstone, Oregon,
for the City of Gladstone, Oregon,
during my entire term,
term.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You can take your seat briefly if you'd like, and then I'll need you to sign that. Yeah, you
Okay.
can go up there, you can do it afterwards. Okay.
Take your spot.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm honored.
Okay. We are now moving down to business carried forward. Did you already do that? No, we just did it.
I really don't, update of council goals is still on business carried forward. I don't have anything else to put on there right now.
Okay. We're moving down to last chance for business from the audience. Nothing?
Nothing.
Okay, business from the council, starting from, well, start from the left.
No new business. Okay.
Oh, you want to see how it, okay, starting from the right.
I got 2 things. One, the festival was, I thought, a huge success. The Rotary did an awesome job. There was a lot of community volunteers this year throughout different parts of it. I want to thank all of the city people that were involved, Public Works, police, fire, library, I mean, city administration, senior center was down there on Friday for the senior day. It was fabulous. Now, I'm not giving up and saying it can't be better, because we will be meeting this here in a couple of weeks to talk about just that, what we can do to make it better. The other thing, I went to Clackamas County Economic Development meeting, and I was hoping to have a copy of the slideshow for us. It was a fairly long meeting, but there was some real gems that come out of it. So I want to, when I get that from Gary Barth, I will distribute that and see if you guys see the same gems in it that I did. So,
Mr. Mercer.
I went to a coffee for the counselors on Monday, and got some good input as usual. Basically talking about some parking issues on Webster, and also some typical livability type code issues. A lot of good positive input, but people were concerned about some things, and officer or interim chief, I should say, Lieutenant Jolly was there and answered a lot of questions. It was just good communication. Number 2, the minutes were slightly off, but rather than try to change the minutes, I want to make the minutes clear this time. Okay, the weekly report is great, and I would like to thank all the department heads for their input into that, and it's really helpful, and they're doing a super job giving that information to the staff so we can see what's going on. I helped in the car show that was on Sunday. I want to thank the fire department for their great help in making a flag salute. We did a very formal flag salute with music and raising the flag on their ladder truck. Is pretty neat to watch. I would also like to thank all of the city departments heads that participated in, including our mayor, in selecting a car to get a plaque. And last but not least, all of the sponsors, including the city staff and senior center and fire department and police station, and everybody got their sponsor awards in on time, which allowed us to get the plaque presentation a half hour earlier than we thought we would. So, great job. Thank you.
So, as we have seen here recently, like just this evening, we have a charter that is a mess. We discussed this in our retreat in January, and of course we've had many other adventures to take care of between then and now, and it has not been a very high priority. I would like to ask that we have discussion about forming a charter committee on our September meeting with the goal of advertising for it and hopefully assigning members, appointing members at our November meeting. I think that we really need to do some work there. I'd like to thank Pat Sissel for his hard work. He's not here this evening. For his final report on the flow meter study. It was very thorough. I'll be sending that on to the West Director and other interested parties as well. I spent a lot of time at the park during the community festival, and I wanted to say again that I was very impressed with our police and fire. I had the opportunity to witness 2 emergency responses. Our people were very professional. I was impressed. in the heat of the day. One was an elderly gentleman who was having medical issues. Another one was a young child who had been running around in the heat too much and had not been drinking enough water. But it was, I was very pleased with how our emergency services handled that. And finally, I want to welcome our new council member, Susan Turner, and I want to assure her that even with all the brouhaha and excitement we've had this evening, I look forward to working with you. Welcome.
I want to ditto what Kim and Tom mentioned about the festival. It was awesome. Got the chance to spend some time in the booth, walk around with my 3-year-old, and sit on the sideline of the parade. So thank you for throwing all the candy. She's still enjoying it. Welcome aboard. Look forward to meeting with you. And also let you know we're having a Parks and Rec meeting on the 24th. Stay cool. Have a great summer.
Mr. Pat.
I just lucked in today at the Senior Center to assist Rhonda with getting a $500 check from the VFW for some of the seniors that we help out with the congregate meals and with the Meals on Wheels program. So if I'd known ahead of schedule, I would have had a better shirt on, but I didn't, so be it.
I'm sure you look great in anything.
No, I don't.
Oh.
I look bigger than that. Dirty old raggedy shirt.
You got nothing to add? Just say hello?
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for your support. I look forward to working with all of you, and if there's anything that I can do for anyone to help out, I can certainly arrange my calendar to help as much as possible, so really appreciate giving me the opportunity.
Really, don't have too much. Yeah, the festival, just like everybody said, looking forward to the debrief. It went really, really well. It was fun. It was a good time, and I look forward to trying to see how much funner we can make it and how much more we can do. So
funner. There you go.
Yeah, it's in there. It's in the dictionary somewhere. All right, and that's all I got. Thanks, folks. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate the input, and have a good night. This meeting is adjourned.